This is a video learning about all the different types of angles. So up to this point, you have only worked with what happened between 2 points, right? Between these 2 points, we know how to find slope. We know how to find the midpoint. We know how to find the distance. We know a lot of stuff. Now, as we move through the geometry curriculum, we're going to show you what to do as we add more points and things become more complicated. So, what would happen if I put another line down here? You would create an angle, right? Okay, so this is what we're focusing on. Now, angles. So there are different types of angles. We have straight angles, which measure 180 degrees. We have acute angles, which are greater than 0 degrees, but less than 90 degrees. We have right angles, which measure 90 degrees. And then we have obtuse angles, which are greater than 90 degrees, but less than 180 degrees. Okay, so these angles are all classified by the number of degrees that they have. So these are all classified by their degree measure. We can also classify angles by the way that they look. So we have 3 types of these angles. We have adjacent angles. We have vertical angles. And we have linear pairs or linear angles. Oops. Let's just call them linear angles. Okay, so in adjacent angles, these are angles that lie on the same plane, have a common vertex and a common side. So, adjacent angles would be this angle right here, BAC, and this angle right here, CAD, because they share a common vertex and they share a common side, C. This would not be an example of an adjacent angle. BAD and BAC are not adjacent angles because while they share a common vertex, you can't have a shared interior. You can't have the angle inside sharing the angle outside. So that is not an example of an adjacent angle. Now, vertical angles. Let's move on to vertical angles. These are 2 non-adjacent angles that are formed by intersecting lines. So remember, intersecting lines. So let's say we have A, D, C, E, and B. right? Okay, excellent. From these vertical angles, we can know that angle AEB and angle CED are vertical angles. So AEB and CED are vertical angles. And we can also know that AED and BEC are vertical angles. So AED and BEC are vertical angles. And we can know that these two angles are congruent and these two angles are congruent. So let's do another example of a vertical angle that's not a vertical angle, right? So let's say we have, hold on, A, E, B. So these lines are intersecting, right? But they're not two straight lines that are intersecting. This is not a straight line. This is not a straight line. So they do not form vertical angles. You need to have two straight lines intersecting like this. Okay, so that is not a vertical angle. Now let's move on to linear angles. A linear pair is a pair of adjacent angles that fall on a straight line. So an example of this is right here. So we have an adjacent angle here and an adjacent angle here. We know that they're adjacent because they share a common vertex and they share a common side. They share B. And what else do we know about linear pairs? They fall on the straight, they fall on a straight line and they equal 180 degrees when they're added together, right? Because the degree measure of a straight line is 180 degrees. It's a straight angle. Okay, great. So in summary, hold on, okay. We have 4 different types of angles based on the number of degrees that they have. We have straight angles, we have straight angles, we have right angles, we have acute angles, and then we have obtuse angles. Right, and then we also have adjacent angles, which are 2 angles that share a vertex and a common side. We have vertical angles formed by 2 intersecting straight lines. And we have a linear pair, which is 2 angles that fall on a straight line. And that is what we learned about angles today.